कैसे हो भाई बहनों मैं हूं Anas, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? I have to start the video off with Hindi because, to be fair, I want to hit every language market I can. Simply because I think today's video is important. You might be like, well, another Windows 11 video. What happened this time? I'm convinced somewhere in Microsoft there is an intention of committing Japanese ritual seppuku every time. Every time they talk about AI in Windows. Now look, Microsoft Windows had a conference called Ignite, and apparently at Ignite, they ignited some goodwill with the audience, and that goodwill basically came into them pushing artificial intelligence constantly onto Windows 11. Now look, Windows 10 is dead and done and dusted. It's over. Support has ended. Windows 11 is where things are at, and they've kind of accelerated the amount of AI shit faster than I think anybody really expected, okay? It seems like I'm making a lot of videos about this, but really it's because there's something new every single week. Now, I whipped out the old Macintosh for this video, ladies and gentlemen, simply because I wanted to use a computer today that is more reflective of the kind of computers that Microsoft wants to target, things with AI processors built into them. Now, imagine the MacBook that I have is not a perfect example, but it's an M4 Max. It's got AI processors, and right over here, ladies and gentlemen, I've got Windows. In fact, I've got all those experimental agentic features enabled. But before we talk about that, ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss what's new. Now, Microsoft actually plans that in the future, they're going to have the Agent 365, that they're going to be pushing around 1 billion agents in the world, okay? 1 billion little AI buddies that are going to be doing your tasks on the computer for you. Now, similar to the web browsers that I looked at earlier, things like Comet Browser, things like ChatGPT Atlas, which, obviously I think if you're a total AI bro, sure, but they come with a lot of security implications, and generally I just don't think the performance is really all the way there. The juice isn't necessarily worth the squeeze. And mind you, I'm not a total anti-AI guy. I run a lot of stuff locally on my system too. I think it is genuinely interesting technology, but I don't ever feel comfortable giving up my information to an off-platform service like ChatGPT, like Google Gemini, even Apple, Microsoft, you name it. If you can run these things locally, great. But I just don't think giving up my personal information, my search queries, my photos, videos, likeness, a lot of this stuff is not really something I consent to when I deal with the big frontier large models. So Microsoft Windows is putting AI agents all in the taskbar. So that taskbar, the simple thing that we love to have, where we just click on the little start button like so, find the application that we want, like a calculator, and just enter it, okay? No, that's going to be stuff with AI agents, ladies and gentlemen. So to give you an idea, we don't really have total access to these things yet, but the idea is you click on the taskbar and you get asked why an analyst agent or a researcher agent. Now, if you click on any of these agents, like a researcher, you can ask them, compare public sentiment with our yada yada yada. So yeah, literally Microsoft is asking, please see what the public thinks about us sticking AI dog shit into our system. I'm sure they probably don't like the result the AI agent brings up. But yeah, all these things are kind of fired up by Copilot, which in turn kind of deals with ChatGPT. So in a lot of ways, you can go to the Copilot button right now, the actual application fires up. And for this moment in time, you can actually communicate with quick responses, GPT-5, or you can search on your systems for local, files and whatnot as of now. So if I ask Copilot, does the public think Windows AI stuff is cool or just bloat? Now, a smart artificial intelligence should at least dig up. Public opinion is split. That's the nicest way Microsoft can put it out there. So according to Windows 11, they've got a preview build, and the way that you can access the AI stuff for now, if you're truly interested, is go to your update check in Windows, go to the Insider program. All you got to do is log in with your actual Windows account, and as long as you're on the developer channel, you should have the exact version they require, which is 26.220.7262. Now, as soon as you get into this, the only thing that you can do right now is AI features. So if you go to the home option. Actually, I believe it might be system, sorry. And you go all the way down to AI components. You can enable experimental agentic features, which what this does now is it creates a second user account that's sort of like an agent's user account. And that account allows the Microsoft AI agent to do tasks for you. Those tasks which should be coming very soon. So for instance, if you're somebody that wants to see what kind of AI actions, if you're in the file browser, yes, even the file browser has AI actions stuffed within it. You can go to those AI actions and ask it to look at an image and blur that with the Photos object, erase object with Photos, or remove background with MS Paint. So to show you how the AI works, I can right-click on the Moodle app, for instance, remove background with Paint. So let's drop it in there, and whoa, it did it. It did it actually pretty quickly. And I imagine it actually did this with onboard intelligence, simply because this task wouldn't be terribly difficult to do. And the reason why I got the MacBook out is because it has the AI cores built in. This could probably work on my main NVIDIA GPU, but I don't know if Microsoft is leveraging the GPU, so I'm just going to use the hardware that's most appropriate to this stuff. So in one task, yeah, it's pretty cool for that. Again, the other thing is you can ask Copilot, and I can ask Copilot, who is this man? And of course, it sends the image to ChatGPT, and this appears to be a stock photo model, not a publicly known individual. Oh, bro. You see that, boys? I fell off. Muda fell off. The AI can't even identify you anymore. Okay, now awesome. So the other features with Windows' AI stuff is click to do, which is the big new feature, right? So basically the click to do context is updated with this streamlined design. And what that, I guess, allows you to do is whenever you see a large image, a context menu will pop up, making it quicker and easier. So when you see a big image, you could ask Microsoft to describe the image, visual search it with Bing, blur the background with Photos, and yada, yada, yada. So some of these features can genuinely be helpful. Some of them you may not be a huge fan of. So when you enable experimental agentic features, Microsoft gives you a big ass warning like, whoa, buddy, when this is on, agents can help you get things done using the new agentic features, but things are still being tested and they may impact the performance, because you're adding all the extra bloat, and security of your devices. So you might be like, that sounds dangerous, Muda. Well, it kind of is. Remember, the way that these agentic features work is that you're going to go to Copilot, you're going to ask it to do a task on your system, and it's going to then open up a separate little agent that does the task for you. Now, this task could be done in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it may take. The goal of it is to look at the mundane shit that you do on a day-to-day basis. Like, for instance, imagine if you took a bunch of photos and they're weirdly like aspect ratioed. You can ask Microsoft Windows to like send an agent and resize images, or maybe like rotate them to a specific like default value, and Microsoft will just do that in the background while I guess you play anything else that you want. Now the thing is, ultimately, depending on who you are, you may be a big fan of having Windows agents run around, but for now this appears to be completely optional. For now, that is. Because remember, anything in this entire camp, it's not meant to be optional. It's optional while they're testing it, and then eventually when, it's mature enough, then it becomes a required part of your system. So if you're still on the train where you're like, man, I don't want this, look, you can go to Linux, or you can stay here. But what about the security shit, boys? So Agentic AI has powerful capabilities today, very arguable. For example, it can complete many complex tasks in response to user prompts. So for instance, as we begin to build agentic capabilities into Windows, our commitment is to introduce robust security and privacy controls that empower users to explore their potential confidently with the support of clear guidance. So what they have is non-repudiation, which is all actions of an agent are observable, meaning at any moment you can just open up the agent and see what the fuck it's doing. If it's making mistakes, you can either intervene or you can just cut it off right there. Then, of course, you've got confidentiality. Agents that collect, aggregate, or otherwise utilize protected data of users meet or exceed the security and privacy standards of the data which they consume. Authorization, users approve all queries for user data as well as actions taken. Now, don't get me wrong, these agents are able to rummage through your computer's files, because ultimately that's a permission they need. So that's also something you have to be totally comfortable with. Remember, these agents are going to be working, I would assume, kind of half local on your system, but a big chunk of their capabilities is really only possible through the power of the cloud artificial intelligence, which means there's going to be some cloud of out there watching your computer even more closely than I think some of you would be comfortable with. And again, look, you could use local stuff, and I have shown local things like browser AI, but the local stuff usually is going to be crappier in terms of how well it operates, simply because you're using smaller models, and again, you're using limited hardware as opposed to fucking GPUs upon GPUs in data centers. So agentic security and privacy principles. So first off, the agents are autonomous entities. They are susceptible to attack in the same ways any other user or software component are. So imagine you've got like a grandpa or grandma, right? And they don't know how to use their computer, so they're like, oh, well, I'm just gonna get the agent to do this for me. Now imagine if the agent decides that they're going to do the task for grandma and grandpa because they're an agent, they're supposed to. Now, remember when I told you that there's a lot of bad people out there that are using really intricate techniques, really not that intricate, but intricate enough for our display here, where they're hiding prompts inside documents, PDF files, images, things that you and I can't see. So these agents, if they are susceptible to these attacks, which they are, they could possibly run something malicious and have something poorly done to your parents, your grandparents, anybody that's falling for this kind of stuff, or even just you. So again, you have to use this with caution. Agents must be able to produce logs outlining their activity. So again, they have to be able to tell exactly what they're doing. Nothing can be skipped. Agents should provide a means to supervise their activities, which means you should be able to, at any point, watch what they're doing, jump in, and yada, yada, yada. Agents always act under the principle of least privilege and must not be granted permissions or capabilities exceeding that of the initiating users, including administrative rights. And I feel like Microsoft is very heavy talking about this simply because if these agents are susceptible, they may also be susceptible to run things like ransomware, run elevated programs, and let's say that they do, right? Remember, Microsoft is thinking of security, but hackers also think every single moment how to break that security. Now, these agents are running in a separate environment, but they're not a virtual machine. They're actually just a separate user account that you can peek into, a separate workspace, really. So, you know, unlike firing up a virtual machine where you have that layer, that separation, this is more closely tied to your system. So again, entities on the system, admin local, should not have special access to an agent other than the owner, which it acts on its behalf. And then, of course, Windows is designed to help agents adhere to Microsoft's commitments for responsibility and AI, which means that obviously if Microsoft doesn't want you doing something, then they're not going to let the agent do something. So, you know, you can't have the agent go like, you know, I watched this video like a million years ago. It's an adult movie. Could you please find it with these descriptions? Microsoft's not going to allow an agent to look through fucking porn on the internet just for your gooning pleasure. That probably goes against their terms of services. You get what I mean? So keep things halal, keep things kosher, whatever side of the aisle you're on. And yeah, it is what it is. So each time an AI workspace is created, a different agent basically is in charge of that. Similar to how like ChatGPT works when you start like new chats, just creates a new container and everything for you to play around with. And of course, everything's logged, there's traceable paths, yada, yada, yada. And Microsoft says security is not a one-time feature, it's a continuous commitment. So they know that this shit is creepy. They've admitted this shit is creepy. They admitted this shit can be uncomfortable. So you really have to agree. That's the one thing I can give Microsoft its flowers on for now, is that they at least tell you. They give you toggles and a bunch of warnings now before you enable this shit. You know, the ultimate thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, is that, again, you really have to ask yourself if all of this is really worth the squeeze, right? So again, the actual AI boss for Microsoft goes and says, geez, there's so many cynics. It cracks me up when I hear people call AI underwhelming. It is underwhelming if you really know. I grew up playing Snake on a Nokia phone. I remember back in the day when I used to use the telegraph. Okay, the fact that people are unimpressed that we can have a fluent conversation with a, yeah, fluent if it's a hallucinating bitch, with a super smart AI that can generate any image, video is mind-blowing to me. Now, the thing about it is, it's not being anti-AI. Again, remember, so far in this video, one of the only key AI features that we used for now is the removing the background from Paint, which obviously is kind of a cool feature, I guess, if you're somebody that is really strapped for time. But I mean, hey, if you know how to Photoshop something or rotoscope, or just, you can do that quite easily. You know, if you want to talk about like AI features, remember when we literally a few days ago saw that Microsoft put in that stupid feature where like you can ask the Copilot like, hey, how do I like make the text bigger? Instead of actually making the text bigger, it went through the entire process of telling users how to actually go through the menu. Which again, if you want to make things helpful, you should make the artificial intelligence actually do things for you right there, right at that moment.
Sure, what can I do for you?
Hey, Copilot, the text is too small on my computer. Can we make it bigger? Can you make it bigger for me?
Sure thing. Let's go to the display settings. Right-click on your desktop background, then select Display Settings.
Can't you do that for me?
I've highlighted the Display Settings option on your desktop. Just click on it, and then in the settings window that opens, you can adjust your text size.
I have no arms functioning anymore. Can you click on it for me?
I can't directly click for you, but no
why?
worries.
You're supposed to be super smart.
I understand the confusion. I'll guide you through it.
So
In the
Microsoft
menu.
lied.
No, it's not about Microsoft lying. Unfortunately, I can't directly interact with your screen to make
Are you
changes.
crippled?
But let's adjust the text size. I see the menu. First, click on Display Settings in that menu.
I'm just gonna stop it right there because I'll be honest with you, that thing started getting quippy with me. You can actually hear in the voice when it starts getting mad. That's actually, I feel actually kind of scared right now. I feel like it just started losing its mind for a minute. Anyways, though, but yeah, that's kind of the Copilot experience today. Now, I'm sure tomorrow, maybe Microsoft's vision of, hey, everything in the operating system can be controlled with the voice. You know, you can just tell the operating system, hey, go on to Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome or Brave and, look up travel destinations for me and put it in a Google document so I can read it later. In fact, email that to me. And I'm sure the agent's going to get really proficient enough where they're going to open up their little workspace. They're going to open up a Brave tab. They're going to look for destinations, and they're going to open up a Google Docs tab and send the information there. And then they're going to email it to you. There's probably going to be ways that they do it. But at the end of the day, all right, I don't know if we're really truly going to get there. I don't know how efficient it's really going to be. And you have to ask yourself the question, right? Is burning all those resources and spending however amount of times at the AI and letting the AI pilfer through your information, is it really worth that? You know? And a lot of this stuff is not going to come without some form of a local performance cost. That much we do know. That much even Microsoft knows. So again, if you're somebody that's literally just trying to use Windows to game, do professional work, yada, 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 you now have to deal with extra bloat added to your system when really I think most people want to stray far away from that as much as they reasonably can. Now look, there is an alternative. I would say Linux, but I know that people get tired of just hearing the penguin over and over again. So there are debloat tools, there are all these options still available. But remember, this is an optional feature. All these agentic things are optional on Windows for now. For now. Because down the road, they're gonna, trust me, you're gonna have to either live with this shit or you're gonna have to switch off to a different platform. But yeah, this is where Microsoft is headed. They want the future of Windows to be something that people without arms and legs can use. Even though presently people with arms and legs, without them, are having trouble, increasing the display scaling. But we're getting there, very slowly, but we'll get there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.